Talk about the third guy, Rome Odunze, real quick here. He is the biggest of the bunch. He's a little bit heavier than Marvin Harrison Jr. He's still 6'3". I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if Harrison came officially under 6'3".
Sure.
But that being said, Odunze is definitely bigger, plays bigger too a lot of times. He ran a 4.45 40, slower of the bunch, but 92 receptions, 1,640 yards, 17.8 yards per reception, and 13 touchdowns. He was right there. And again, another receiver in this top three. Different than Harrison Jr. Now, this is not a knock on Harrison Jr., but he had to compete with Polk. And Polk for Washington still had 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. Yep. So, again, like we're talking about premier production in the NCAA against competition and able to, especially someone like Neighbors who did in the SEC, not to say the SEC is the creme de la creme, but I mean, it's the measurable for most of the teams a lot.
Sure.
They're doing it with those guys next to them. And so I think it's the offenses that complement that, but and the quarterbacks too, because you could see that LSU's quarterback and Washington's quarterback are arguably top 5 prospect, top 6 prospects.
And that's what I was going to say is these two come from teams that like to pass the ball a lot, right? So yeah, there are some inflated stats and there are some guys in here where they're going to have multiple 1,000-yard receivers on the team. They come from teams that like to throw the ball a lot. Whereas, there are some other guys on this list that we'll talk about that come from teams that don't, which I think are going to be hidden gems in this. And I think teams might be overlooking them, and fantasy owners might be overlooking them because their stats don't jump off the board the same way that others do. There's guys and there's guys from Michigan. We'll talk about Rome Wilson later. But I mean, he's a guy that didn't come from a passing offense. Their quarterback only threw for 2,500 yards. Whereas, you look at Penix and you look at Jaden Daniels, and they were topping out, 4,000 yards.
Yep.
So there's so many more yards to go around to people. But I think that there's talent level there, and Odunze has the intangibles to be that elite receiver. He is great. He's a great route runner. He has elite speed. He's great with the catch. He doesn't have a lot of drops. He's great at creating separation. He's going to fit into a lot of these teams, and especially in the top 10 where there are so many teams that are wide receiver needy. This is a great position for him to go into that.
Well, and the thing about these three guys, when you look at them on film compared to the other receivers here, they make it look effortless. When you look at Calvin Johnson, he made it look effortless. When you looked at Justin Jefferson when he was at LSU, he looked effortless playing the game. It wasn't that it was easy for him. He just was so tuned into his element as a wide receiver and took that role on. It looked easier. And that's one thing that I noticed with Odunze since Neighbors and Harrison Jr. weren't at the combine. If you watch a combine, it just looked like he was out there practicing, but he was moving. He's moving fast, but his calculated movements and the route running is what makes him one of these elite guys.